welcome to CrimeDivers. I'm Laura.
And I'm Jill.
And welcome to today's episode.
Hello, everybody. So, of course, we're going to apologise.
Yes.
We haven't been here for the past couple of weeks, and that's both of our fault. Just life got in the way.
Yes, school holidays.
Yeah, we didn't organise things very well, did we? And we kind of, I will blame Laura for that one, that she actually got the holidays mixed up.
Yes, I did, to be fair. I got myself confused.
Yeah, just things, work and dogs and children, and things just got in the way.
Just life.
Yeah, things just got in the way. So we haven't been here for a couple of weeks, but we're back now.
Yes, we are.
And just before we start, Laura has got a lot on at the moment, so she's going to be taking a break from writing cases.
Yes, I've come to a point where I'm struggling to get them done, so I'm just going to take a bit of a break, but I'm still here for those cases.
She's still going to be here every week when we're recording.
Yeah.
But it's unfortunately they're all just stuck with my cases for now, and you never know, she might pop in now and again with one, but at the moment it's me. I'm still writing them. I've got more time on my hands, so that's fine. And Laura will be here recording, because I would never do it without her. No,
absolutely. I'm still here, still ready to listen.
Right, so saying that...
Yes, where are we in the world today?
We're in Canada.
And the title?
An MSN Murder.
Ooh, an MSN, I've not heard that word for a long time.
No way.
Okie dokie, shall we dive in?
Yep, let's dive in. So, before I get into the case, I just want to give a trigger warning. So, there'll be talk of sexual assault and rape in this episode. Indeed. So, if this is, something you feel you can't listen to, then just skip this episode and we'll see you next time.
Mm-hmm.
So, are you ready?
I am ready.
Okay. So, Kimberly, or Kim Proctor, was born on the 1st of January 1992 in Langford, British Columbia, to her parents Fred and Lucy. As Kim grew up, she was a happy child. She was always smiling and she loved animals, and over the years she had pets like hamsters, rabbits, guinea pigs, mice, lizards.
Oh God, that's a big selection.
And she loved cats so much that she would actually wear cat ears to school when she was little.
Aww.
And she wanted to work with animals when she was old enough.
Uh-huh.
So although Kim was happy at home, school, it was a different story. Mm-hmm. She was bullied and she suffered with anxiety, especially when she was in like a big group of people.
Mm-hmm.
So as you can imagine, it was hard for her being in a school where a big school, the classes were big. There was a lot of students there, so it was hard for her.
Mm-hmm.
So she was easily distracted and found it hard to concentrate in her classes. So she struggled a lot, especially when her teachers would tell her off. Because they'd be telling her off for not paying attention and stuff.
Yeah.
So, this was really interfering with her studies, and she just wasn't doing very well at all. So her parents took her to the doctors, and she was diagnosed with ADHD. Mm-hmm. So she was prescribed medication, and she started taking it. But after a while, her mum and dad said that she just wasn't the same happy kid that she had been. She was she was walking about like a zombie.
Right, okay.
And they decided to take her off the medication, because although it was helping her focus a bit better, it just wasn't worth it, because she was a different child.
Yeah.
So they took her off the medication. So instead of that, they decided to take her out of the mainstream school and put her into one more suited to her needs. So the school that she went to, that they put her into, was a smaller one, and it was for kids who needed a bit more attention.
Right.
For kids that had behavioural problems, learning disabilities, physical disabilities, or like Kim, like ADHD. Mm-hmm. So she was doing better with her schoolwork, so I'm assuming with smaller classes it would have been easier for her to concentrate, and she would be able to get more attention from her teachers. Mm-hmm. So all in all, it was
better for her.
Yeah, much better for her.
Mm-hmm.
So she was much happier in this school, and she settled in quickly. Although it was a bit challenging to try to find some friends at first. As I said, there were some kids with behavioural problems, and some could be quite violent and have sudden outbursts, so I can imagine that would be a bit scary for her at first. But once she figured out who was who, she made some friends. So by now Kim was 18, and her closest friends were 3 boys: Cruz Wellwood, who was 16, Cameron Moffat, who was 17, and a guy called Zach. I don't know his surname.
Right.
So Kim dated Zach for a while. It didn't last long, it was a few months, but then he dumped her, so she was pretty upset about it. So she would turn to Cruz and Cameron for comfort. So she would chat to them online on MSN. And in one chat, Cameron told Kim that he liked her, but she was actually more interested in Cruz.
Right.
So they'd gotten quite close since the split from Zach, and she told her other friend Samantha that if she dated Cruz, then she thought it would lessen the pain of losing Zach.
Right, okay.
Samantha didn't think that was a great idea.
No.
To start dating someone, that's not the right reasons.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, that's definitely not the right reasons.
So she told Kim not to lead Cruz on if she wasn't genuinely into him. But they kept chatting online and like being more open with each other, and as they felt it was easier to say things on MSN like over chat rather than in person.
Yeah.
But totally get that. She told him that she felt short and pudgy, and he told her she was beautiful. Like he was saying all the right things, and he opened up about the horrible nickname he'd had in his other school and how much that hurt him. So although this sounds lovely.
Yeah, I was going to say it's sounding quite nice so far.
Cruz sounds like a nice guy. Online, he certainly wasn't. Offline. Him and Cameron were doing drugs. They experimented with drinking blood and bodily fluids.
Ugh.
Yeah, there's not really that many bodily fluids.
Well, so, like, yuck.
Yeah. So I'm not exactly sure, but you can guess. In their online chats, they would fantasise about rape and bondage. Both of them began drinking alcohol around the age of 10.
Oh God, that's way too young.
Yeah, and as they got older, they experimented in drugs such as like ecstasy and LSD.
Ugh. How did they get that?
Oh. Well, Cruz didn't have a great home life.
Right.
Both his parents neglected him as he was growing up. He was described as defiant, argumentative, verbally abusive, and sometimes violent. His dad had left at some point, I think when he was quite young, and Cruz was both physically and verbally abusive to his mum.
Oh, right, okay.
And in March 2001, Cruz's dad, who was called Robert Raymond Deswan, was arrested for sexual assault with a weapon, confinement and robbery of a young woman in Kelowna. And then on the 13th of October 2001, he sexually assaulted a 16-year-old girl called Cherish Billy Oppenheim, and then he beat her to death and left her body on a deserted road.
Oh, God.
Sorry, ma'am. I'm just recovering from the cold and my voice is getting a bit croaky there. Deswan, who is serving a life sentence with no chance of parole for 15 years, committed the crime, and he was already out on bail for a previous sexual assault. So,
not great.
No. And before that, in 1993, he was convicted of unlawful confinement and break-in and enter-in after he broke into a woman's home at night, climbed on top of her and tried to stuff a rag into her mouth. So Cruz, he was only 7 when his dad was put in prison for murder.
Right, okay.
They kept in touch for a while, but by the time Cruz was 12, he hated his dad and he cut him off. So, as Cruz grew up, he thought he was the bee's knees. He thought he was better than everyone else. He never did it. He was told he was the one, and he was the one that was in control when it came to his mum.
Right.
He was also violent towards kids his age at school. Once he broke a teen's head open with a chain.
Oh, God.
I think it was like a bike chain or something. And another time he broke somebody's nose. So all the other kids at school were beneath him.
Oh.
You know, that's what he thought. And the only one who ever came close to him was Cameron.
Right, okay.
But Cameron didn't have a great childhood either. He had actually been sexually assaulted at only 3 years old.
Bloody hell.
And ever since then, he'd never been the same. And I think he'd just been so traumatised by what happened. Mm-hmm. You know, he would lash out. He would often, like, push his sister about. And in kindergarten, he would hit and push other kids. But as far as I can see, he didn't have a great support system around him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and no help to deal with the trauma. So he was dealing with it the only way he knew how, by
just acting
lashing out and acting out, yeah. So he turned to violence and later drugs,
Right.
alcohol and a friendship with Cruz. When they started on the drugs, they would just take anything and everything. They were like mixing just this, that and the next thing. Like,
whatever they could get their hands on.
yeah, basically, which would be really dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
And they were drinking every day as well. So their heads must have been absolutely scrambled.
Totally.
they liked the game World of Warcraft.
Oh,
So
yeah.
whenever they weren't together, they would be either chatting on that or chatting and playing on that or on MSN Messenger. And as I said, they would before Kim, she would chat to Cruz on MSN Messenger, and then Cameron as well. So she would have like 2 separate chats, and she'd go between the 2 of them, you know, talking to both of them. Cameron he'd actually been flirting with Kim while she had been dating Zach, his friend Zach.
Right.
What a douchebag.
Totally.
Kim hadn't really entertained it. I mean, like she'd been nice and chatted with him and sort of humoured him a bit. So I think she sort of lightly did flirt back, but she wasn't meaning anything by it. She was just kind of like, right, okay, just
Yeah.
you know, because she wasn't interested. She liked Zach. She wasn't interested in Cameron, and he started to come on really heavy with her. So eventually she had to put her foot down and say, nah, you know, enough is enough. And you know, like the lovely person that he was, he didn't apologise, and he didn't think, oh shit, I went too far. Nope, he decided to blackmail her instead. He threatened to send the flirty messages to Zach, so she panicked and just put up with him being flirty and coming on too strong.
Oh,
I know.
That's terrible.
She shouldn't have to put up with that.
No,
That's
definitely
awful.
not.
You know, if you say no, that means no. Like,
Well,
you know, enough is enough. So once Zach had split up with her, as I said before, she went to Cruz and Cameron for support. But they were shitheads, as you've already guessed. You know, well, you haven't guessed, I've told you. They were shitheads. They relentlessly flirted with her and would ask for, like, naked pictures. And they were just really disrespectful of her when they were supposed to be her friends. But because she'd always liked Cruz, she decided to give him a chance, and they went out on a couple of dates. But it didn't really come to anything, and it didn't go any further than that. But then, you know, as they he must have realised that it wasn't going any further. Cruz and Cameron just started sending Kim, like, really horrible messages. And because they knew her so well, they knew what would upset her. You know, they knew what her triggers were. And you know, like, she was really insecure about her appearance. They would say nasty things about her appearance. But, like, when she got upset, they would say, for fuck's sake, can you not take a joke?
Yeah.
You know, like...
Try and make it out like they were just being funny and stuff.
Yeah, when they were being really hurtful towards her.
Yeah.
And Kim would put up with it, I think, probably because she was so insecure and she just wanted to have friends. But they treated her so horribly. Like, one time she was online and she could see that Cruz was too. So... like, she asked him a question, don't know what it was, and he didn't reply. So she, you know, she kind of asked again because she knew he was online, and then eventually he answered her saying, "Oh, I was talking to someone more important than you."
Oh, charming.
Yeah, exactly. What a prick.
Yeah, totally.
So this horrible abuse went on for about a month until one day, Cruz messaged Kim on MSN and asked her what she had planned for the following day. So she had replied saying, "No, nothing much. I'm doing nothing until, but I'm babysitting at 3 p.m. So he said that he was bored and he was looking for someone to chill with, and also he wanted to apologise. He said that he had some things that he would rather tell Kim in person about the Zach fiasco.
Right, okay.
Whatever the Zach fiasco was.
Yeah, okay.
So Kim said that she didn't want to talk about Zach, and Cruz replied that him and Zach weren't as close anymore, but he felt that Kim deserved an explanation. But it was more about why he and Cameron had been so mean to her.
Right, okay.
So he was going to say he was going to apologise, he was going to explain to her why they'd been so horrible.
Was he going to blame Zach?
So, I don't know, because this is all just a ruse to... So she was a bit shocked, as it hadn't been so long ago that her rabbit had died, and the boys were saying things like, you deserve nothing because you killed your rabbit. You know, like, which obviously she didn't. No, just really vile things like that. And she said that to Cruz. She was like, you know, wasn't long ago, this is what you were saying to me. And he said that he wanted to apologise for it. But he wanted to apologise in person, he wanted to give her a proper explanation, and he asked her to meet him before she went to babysit. And she'd, for whatever reason, asked him to call her. I don't know if she might be... because you can't tell in messages, can you, if somebody's been sincere or, you know...
Well, yeah, they're very... well, yeah, you can't tell.
No, exactly. So I think that's maybe why she'd said, "Oh, like, give me a phone," so she could hear his voice. So Cruz called Kim, But what she didn't know is that he secretly brought Cameron in on the call, so it was like a 3-way call, so that he could listen in. But Kim didn't know that he was there. She thought she was just talking to Cruz. So while Cruz and Kim were chatting, the two boys on the phone, the two boys were sending messages over MSN, talking about what they wanted to do to Kim. One message was Cruz saying, "I'm going to rip her nose ring out and burn it," and then in capital letters it said, "Burn her flesh." Cameron replied, "Why not keep her bound and alive?" Cruz responded, "That's what I need to do, but I need to get her stoned first and possibly seduce her." And Cameron said, "LOL, try quickly." So they talked about robbing Kim, and they said that they were going to murder her. They decided on a code phrase to say when they decided it was time to start. And that phrase was, "I'm going to make some KD." So I can tell by the look on your face you don't know what that is.
No idea.
I didn't know what it was either, so I looked it up. See, I know when I don't know something, you probably won't know what it is either.
It's not very often I probably do.
So KD stands for Kraft Dinner, and it's like our cheesy pasta. So it's like mac and cheese in a box.
Aye, because they're the maker's Kraft.
So it's a Kraft dinner.
Right, okay.
So it's a box of macaroni and then a cheese powder in a sachet, and you make it into a sauce. Just for anybody else who doesn't know either. So they call it a Kraft dinner.
Right, okay.
We call it cheesy pasta or mac and cheese. So that was their code word when they were ready to start with the murder. That's what the code phrase was going to be. I'm going to make some KD. So while Kim and Cruz were on the phone, she agreed to meet up with him on the morning of the 18th of March 2010, so that Cruz could apologise in person and they could have a chat and hopefully work things out between them. So that morning, when Kim's mum was leaving for work, Kim was still in bed, so mum gave her a kiss goodbye and told her that she loved her. They were actually really happy that day because the day before, Kim had found out that she had enough credits to graduate from high school. And she was planning on volunteering at the local wild animal rehabilitation centre. So they were in a good mood. They were like, "Hey, everyone's great." So as Kim didn't have school that day, her plan was to go and meet Cruz, then babysit in the afternoon, and then go home, and she was going to start sewing her graduation dress. So after her mum had left for work, Kim got up and dressed and she jumped on the bus. So she got off the bus at 10:30 a.m. at the Langford bus exchange, and Cruz and Cameron were there to meet her. So I don't know if she knew that Cameron was going to be there, but I don't think she minded that he was. I think she was quite happy. They stood and chatted for a while, and then they walked to Cruz's house because he had an empty house. His mum must have been at work or whatever. So shortly after they arrived, Cruz said that he was going to make some KD dinner. KD, sorry, you don't say KD dinner, you just say KD, so it's Kraft dinner. So he said he was going to make some KD. And they just started attacking Kim. So they pushed her to the ground and they started kicking her and hitting her. They tied her ankles and her wrists. Cruz then put a sock in her mouth and put duct tape over it. So now she couldn't move or scream, and they just launched a brutal attack on her. Again, they were kicking her, they were punching her, they were slapping her. One of them started mutilating her with a knife. They both raped her over and over. They went to the rubbish bin and they took stuff out of it, like just random bits of rubbish out of the bin, and they put it into her vagina and her anus. And they beat her for hours until she became so weak that she just couldn't put up a fight anymore.
Yeah, that's awful.
At this point, they picked her up, took her into the garage, and they put her in a chest freezer, which was on, and she was still tied up and she was still gagged. So they put her in the chest freezer, shut the lid. I think Cameron must have left at this point, and Cruz went onto his computer trying to set himself up with an alibi, and because he sent Kim a message asking if she had finished babysitting yet. Obviously knowing that very well she hadn't. Because his name had popped up as being online, so that's like his alibi, he was online. But other friends were actually messaging him as well, so like he was talking to them. So
probably thinking, "Oh, this is great. I've got a good alibi here."
Good alibi, So one of them wanted Cruz's advice, because he thought that his dad had been drinking rubbing alcohol. So in case anybody doesn't know what rubbing alcohol is, because I kind of knew what it was, but I had to sort of.
Me, no idea.
Yeah. Well, I sort of had an idea, but I checked just in case. Anyway, it's like an antiseptic, and it's used as like a cleaning solution.
Oh, right.
So it's not supposed to be drunk.
Right,
So obviously this boy was worried about his dad drinking it. So I'm not surprised the boy was worried. So Cruz didn't reply straight away, and the guy, the boy typed, "Dude, speak." You know, the SPPPEEE like that. So 8 minutes later, because obviously these people are what's the word? Impatient. If you send somebody a message, you expect to get one back.
Of course.
And if they don't reply, you keep messaging them until they do reply. I was a bit old for MSN, so I don't know.
I did MSN.
Yeah, well, the kids had MSN. I remember, like, them coming in from school and, can I go on and speak to my pals? And I'm like, you've literally just seen them at school.
Yeah.
But so they'd get limited to like an hour, and that was it.
Yeah.
So 8 minutes later, Cruz did reply, and he said, quote, "Sorry, the freezer was jumping around," end quote.
The freezer was jumping around. That's a random thing to say.
Well, not really, when you just put somebody in a freezer.
No, but if they didn't know that, like, why would you say that?
Well, that was him obviously being a smart arse and thinking that he's funny.
Right.
Obviously, inside joke because the other guy didn't know what he was talking about, but to actually say that, like, to mention the freezer is disgusting.
Yeah, totally.
And later on, the boys did check the freezer later. Kim had died.
Oh, shit.
So Cameron texted an ex-girlfriend later and asked her to sneak out and meet him at Cruz's house, but luckily she didn't, because I do wonder if they were planning on doing it again. So thank God she never. She refused. So the following day, they put Kim's body into a hockey bag, and they got on a bus to the Galloping Goose walking trail. When they got there, they walked for a while until they came to a bridge. So they put the bag under a footbridge because they thought no one would have any reason to be under that bridge because, you know, why would you be under a bridge?
Exactly,
and they doused the bag in petrol, set on fire, and then they left thinking, you know, that's it. Well, you know,
job done.
Yeah, because nobody would find Kim's body there. And they got on with the rest of their day. Cameron went to meet his mum and his grandma for lunch, and then his mum took him out to buy a video game, and Cruz went to meet a girl. I don't know if it was his girlfriend or somebody he was seeing, but he was with a girl. So of course by now the police were already looking for Kim because her mum had reported her missing the day before. She said she knew something was wrong straight away when Kim didn't turn up to babysit. And then she tried to call her and the phone had gone straight to voicemail, which never happened. So Kim always answered the phone when her mum called, so she knew something had happened. And as soon as her best friend Samantha knew that she was missing, she put up a Facebook post in capital letters saying, "OMFG. I'm so upset my best friend is missing. Kim, if you see this, please email me, tell me that you're okay. I will never stop being friends with you, Kim. I miss you. Please email me to tell that you're okay. Kimmy, I miss you and I love you." So I was thinking that's quite dramatic, considering she was only missing that day. But then I thought, well, it just goes to show how out of character it must have been for her not to be in contact. Yeah. So, you know, they were out searching for her straight away. Kim's body was actually found at 7 p.m. on the same day that Cruz and Cameron had left her under the bridge.
Wow. So somebody did go along.
Yeah, they didn't realise that a group of teenagers actually used that place as somewhere out of the way to go and smoke weed. So it's lucky that they did, because if they didn't go there, then it would have taken a hell of a lot longer to find Kim. But they couldn't identify her straight away though, because she was so badly burned. And eventually she was identified by dental records. A team of more than 40 police officers were put on the case, and as Corporal Darren Lagan, who was a spokesperson for the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, said, quote, "For cases involving teens, the online world is more valuable than ever. People tend to be freer online, especially young people. They don't feel any repercussions or anyone watching. It's like when we used to try to get a booth in a coffee shop next to a person that we were surveying. We don't have to do that anymore," end quote. So obviously they were straight online looking for any clues. So The police were keeping a close eye online as Kim's family and friends started writing condolences, and a public memorial page was set up in her honour. People started talking about who they thought might have killed Kim, so the police found potential witnesses by reading through all these messages.
Mm-hmm.
So Cruz and Cameron were questioned a few times at the start of the investigation, along with Zach, because they were closest to Kim, so obviously they were going to be questioned.
Absolutely.
Cruz and Cameron admitted that they had seen Kim that morning, but she had left to go and babysit just before 3 p.m, so something must have happened to her on the way to babysit.
Mm-hmm.
They seemed to be quite confident that they weren't going to get caught, and Cameron messaged Cruz a few days after Kim's murder and said, "We killed that bitch and it wasn't so hard, so we should do it again." So that does make me wonder if the
other girl would have been the
Yeah.
target.
Yeah. So Cruz was obviously proud of what he's done because he was desperate to tell somebody.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't want to use MSN, so he thought it would be safer to use the World of Warcraft
Mm-hmm.
instead, like the chat function.
Yeah.
As he didn't think that the chat logs would be saved there. So 5 days after Kim's murder, he was talking to his girlfriend on MSN, and he told her that he had something urgent to tell her, but he wanted to tell her on the World of Warcraft. So they both logged on, and on the in-game chat he told her about the murder. So his girlfriend was from Halifax, so I thought, well, if he's telling her about the murder, then that must be further away.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise she would have heard of it, obviously.
Yeah.
So I did look it up to see where Halifax was, and that's actually in Nova Scotia. So if you were driving, it would actually take you a couple of days to drive from British Columbia to Nova Scotia.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think this girlfriend was like a sort of online
one.
Yeah.
I was going to say, because if a boyfriend was to turn around and tell me that, I didn't want to be his boyfriend anymore.
Well, no.
I'm worried for my own safety.
But obviously, because and if she'd been local, then she would have heard about the murder. So, so it's not surprising that she hadn't heard about the murder. So Cruz told her what they had done, and he sent links to the news reports to her so that she could read about it. Just say, look, I am telling the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is what happened. So the girl was shocked, but she said to him, quote, "I'll always be there no matter what you do." But I don't know if that's just because
She just wanted to sort of keep them sweet.
she wanted to keep him sweet, like maybe wanted to find out more information.
Yeah.
I don't know. So Cameron, then he joined the chat and he confirmed what Cruz had told her. And the girl had said to Cameron, quote, what about her family and friends and all those lives you've ruined?
Mm-hmm.
And he said, nah, I don't feel bad for them.
Oh, he's evil.
So as I said, I don't know if the girlfriend actually meant what she said, or she was just scared, or if she wanted them to tell her more so that she could tell the police. I'm not sure, because I think she did speak to the police at some point.
Yeah.
So,
Mm-hmm.
because that's how they found out about that. Anyway, so at school one day, Cruz was talking about Kim, and I don't think he mustn't have been saying very nice things about her. And her friend Samantha asked him to stop because it was too painful.
Yeah.
And he shouted, "No one fucking cares. She's dead. Who gives a shit?" And someone else had a similar encounter with him, and he told the boy, quote, "I'm glad she's dead. I hated her." End quote.
Lovely.
Yeah. So obviously the way that he's acting anyway, that's suspicious.
Oh, right.
If somebody's died, whether you like them or not.
Yeah, you don't just go around saying things like that.
Exactly.
Like, you don't have to like the person, to be fair, but you don't have to go and...
You don't mouth off about them.
Just keep your opinion to yourself. Do you know
And
what I
you
mean?
show a bit of respect towards their friends, and so obviously this was looking suspicious. So the police were gathering evidence on the boys, and eventually they had enough to get authorisation to bug their houses,
Right.
their mobile phones, and next to a gazebo where they hung out in the park.
Mm-hmm.
This also meant that they had access to their online activities. So investigators dug up their Google searches, the chat logs on World of Warcraft, and old transcripts of texts and instant messages on MSN. And in total, they were the equivalent of 1.4 billion sheets of paper of messages.
Oh, wow.
All these messages. How do people talk that much?
Well, we talk quite a lot.
Do you think it'd be 1.4 billion sheets of paper? It depends how far back you went,
I was
I
going to say,
suppose.
depends how far back you go, yeah.
Yeah, but that's 1.4 billion, that's a lot.
That is quite a lot, to be fair.
So, 3 months after Kim's murder, on the 18th of June 2010, Cruz, Wellwood and Cameron Moffat were arrested. Both of them didn't say much at first, but after 9 hours of interrogation, Cameron cracked and confessed. They both pleaded guilty to first-degree murder and indignity to human remains, and they were sentenced to life imprisonment with no parole for 10 years. A year after Kim's murder, the boys were transferred to adult facilities, and they have since applied for parole but have been denied so far. Since they were put away, several girls came forward and said they had been assaulted, sexually assaulted and raped by either Cruz or Cameron, or even both of them at the same time.
Wow.
So Kim wasn't the first person that they attacked, but unfortunately she was the first person that they murdered.
Yeah. I mean, obviously it's horrific what the other girls went through, but they were lucky not to be murdered as well.
Yeah. So from assessments they've had, they are both high risk for reoffending, so hopefully that'll keep them in prison for many years to come.
I don't think they should be released.
Because they're actually eligible for parole now, because that was 2010.
Oh God,
and they no parole for 10 years.
Right.
So if they keep applying, one day maybe they will be.
Yeah.
But hopefully they'll get kept inside.
Yeah, I hope so, because they don't deserve to be out walking the streets as far as I'm concerned.
No, they deserve to be in there for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, so thank you to everybody for listening, and we'll see you next time.
See you later, bye.